and welcome back to my channel. Today's topic is vascular disease. Now this is divided into two sections, arterial and venous. And with this we will complete 55 more questions of the series. Now this topic is a very high yielding topic because it is small but the questions asked are more. And in the recent time more questions are asked from the arterial sections. So we will do 41 questions of that section and the rest are asked from the venous section. So these are the topics that we will do. Now let's start with the first topic from the section arterial. So the first topic is the tests and the tests of the thoracic outlet obstruction. So till now two questions have been asked, but this is important as more questions are asked from the NEET exam as well. See, look at these questions. Before starting the questions, I will discuss about the tests that are done. So the first test is Edson's test, where we do the extension of the neck and then we rotate the neck towards the affected side. If the radial pulse is absent or weak, the test is positive. Next is the Halstead maneuver. This is similar to Edson's, but here the neck is rotated to the opposite side and the doctor from the behind do the down traction on the affected side shoulder. So if the radial pulse is weak, it is positive. You can look at the test image. Now the third is the Wright's or the hyperabduction test, where the arm is hyperabducted above 90 degree and the neck is rotated to the affected. If the pulse is weak, it is positive. Next is the Ross test. This is also known as the extended arm stress test, and you can see the image. This is abduction of the shoulder at 90 degree and flexion of the elbow at 90 degree. If it is positive, that is if the patient is not able to do after some time, it is positive. Now after this, we'll go back to the questions. 30-year-old male presents with numbness of both hands. Test is performed. What is this? So I just now told you it is Ross test. Now look at another question, that is Allen's test. This I explained you in the previous video of trauma, so you can refer back there. We'll immediately do it. Now this test is performed to check the patency of the palmar arch, specifically the ulnar artery obstruction. Now a very important point here is, now if this test is positive, that means that both radial and ulnar arteries are patent, and if it is negative, that means that there is an abnormality or there is an obstruction and the arteries are not patent. So the answer here will be the Allen's test. Now next topic is superior mesenteric artery syndrome. Now this topic is important because this is also an image based question. 3 times this question have been asked and once with an image. Now look at the question. All the following are true about the superior mesenteric artery syndrome except. See, I'll provide you with some information about it. First of all, superior mesenteric artery syndrome is also known as Wilkie's syndrome. Now, the angle here, which is normal, is between 38 to 65 degrees. So, when do we call it as superior mesenteric artery syndrome? When the angle becomes less than 25 and symptoms are present. Right? See, if the angle is less than 25, superior mesenteric artery is compressed. When the angle is less and the symptoms are there, it is superior mesenteric artery syndrome, which is also known as Wilkie's syndrome. Now, this obstructs the third part of the duodenum. When the angle is reduced between the aorta and the superior mesenteric artery, and the symptoms will be episodic epigastric pain associated with vomiting. Now look at the options. So they are asking the wrong statement. The third part of the duodenum is compressed. Now this is a right statement because the duodenum is compressed, not the superior mesenteric artery. Second, the angle is more than 70. No, it is less than 25 degree. Third, surgical management is duodenotracheostomy. Definitely will do it because the duodenum is compressed, so we have to bypass the duodenum. Fourth, it is Wilkie's, I just now told you. So the answer is this. Now I will show the image that was given in the question. So this was the image and the C, the angle is reduced and the duodenum is compressed. Now the third topic is aneurysm. 13 questions have been asked from this topic, so it is an important one and in 8 different ways. Let's start. First, abdominal aortic aneurysm is operated when its size. So there are indications for the surgery in aneurysm of the aortic surgeries. So first indication is when there are symptoms present. Second, if the patient is asymptomatic but either the size of the aneurysm is more than 5.5 mm or the rate of growth is 10 mm per year or 5 mm every 6 monthly. So this is the indication and the answer will be 5.5. In females, the cutoff is 5 mm. So if in question female is mentioned 5, if not then 5.5. So this is the answer. Second, most common artery involved in pseudoaneurysm. See, if all the layers of involved, it is true aneurysm, but if one or two layer is involved, specifically the outer one, it is pseudo. And the most common artery is femoral artery. Look at the explanation for further points. Third, the most common site of peripheral aneurysm is popliteal artery. So they have mentioned peripheral aneurysm. The most common site overall is Berry's aneurysm. Remember in the trauma section I told you, where we have the subarachnoid hemorrhage. Most common site for extracranial aneurysm is aorta. So extracranially it is aorta, overall it is Berry's, and in the periphery it is popliteal artery. Fourth, the Hunterian ligature is performed for which surgeries? Aneurysmal surgeries. Now, another very important question which are asked in 3 different ways. See, the mortality associated with emergency abdominal aortic surgery. This was asked in 2013 and later it was asked in the NEET exam as well. See, actual answer is in emergency aortic surgeries with the rate of mortality is 40 to 50%. And in the elective surgeries where we do the endovascular and other repairs, it is 1 to 2%. So here they are asking emergency, so the answer has 50% as the option, so this will be the answer. In the subsequent years, similar question was asked. See, the mortality associated with emergency abdominal aortic surgeries. So if in the option 40 to 50 के बीच में answer is given, so mark 40 or any range between this, and if 50 is given, this will not be answer if in the option 40 is given. But if in the option is 40 is not given, then the answer will be more than 50 because this is a closer answer. Now next very important topic, to expose the celiac axis, left renal artery, superior mesenteric artery and abdominal aorta in the trauma abdomen, which procedure is done? See, last time also I told you 2 procedures are done for retroperitoneal traumas or retroperitoneal hematoma. One is the Cattle-Brash maneuver and the second is the Metox maneuver. So if we have to expose aorta, we will do left medial visceral rotation, which is known as Metox. So we are going to rotate our descending aorta on this side. And if we have to expose the IVC, then we will do the Cattle-Brash maneuver, which is the right side medial visceral rotation, this one. For further detailed explanation, read the image I have displayed here. Now let's move to the next topic, that is arteriovenous fistulas. Now only one question have been asked, that is the Nicolandoni sign or the Branham sign. Now this is when we occlude the AV fistula, then the swelling disappears, the thrill and the bruit disappears, and the pulse rate decreases and the BP increases. This is what is known as the Nicolandoni's or the Branham sign. Now few more points. The most common cause of AV fistula is congenital and the treatment of choice is angioembolization and if not possible excision. Now next topic is the glomus tumors. The glomus tumor is seen in fingers. So that many options were given and it is a tumor of fingers or the dermal bodies of finger and toes. See, the difference between the glomus and paragangliomas is important because earlier glomus was included as a part of paragangliomas, but now it is differentiated from it. Paragangliomas arise from glomus, whereas glomus arise from the arteriole or the venule smooth muscles. And glomus locations are mostly finger and toes, that toes dermal bodies, whereas paragangliomas can occur anywhere. Now the next topic is aortic dissection, and this is a very important question because alternative years they ask the questions. 5 questions have been asked. There are 2 types of questions, management and investigation of choice. So see, 50-year-old male with BP 160/11, heart rate 120, and it reveals Stanford E aortic dissection. What is the initial management? See, it is very important to know the treatment. In the initial management, always of any grade, the treatment is beta blocker. Why? Because we want to reduce the signs and symptoms, specifically to control the hypertension. Thereafter, in the first and second classification of the Stanford, we do the surgical repair, whereas in the third one, we do the conservative or endovascular repair. So this is the classification image. In type 1 or type 2, which is the proximal in the Stanford classification, the ascending as well as the descending is involved. In type 2 only the ascending part is involved, and in type 3 only the descending part is involved, which is known as the distal section. So here we will do the surgical, and in the B we will do the conservative management. Now let's look at the question. So the initial management is beta blocker. Now they're also asking question on the investigation of choice. So this question was repeated in the NEET in few years back. See, first assertion reasoning. Multi-detector CT is the gold standard test for aortic dissection. That's a true statement. And in the case of skilled persons, even transesophageal echocardiogram is as sensitive and specific as multi-detector CT. This is also a correct statement. And since both of them are not the explanation, so the answer will be B. Now, this pattern of questions were asked before 2019, specifically in 2019, and similar questions on this topic are asked in NEET as well. So you can look, the investigation of choice is CT, chest and abdomen, but the gold standard is multi-detector CT. Now next, very important topic is the peripheral vascular disease or the claudications. So 12 questions have been asked, specifically in the recent years. And they are asked in 8 different ways. So let's start. See, 35-year-old chronic smoker presents with bluish discoloration of the toes with intermittent claudication. What is the next appropriate investigation? The key words here are smoker, 35, with claudications and bluish discoloration, that is the Raynaud's features. So the diagnosis here is the Buerger's disease. And the next appropriate step that we do, that is the first initial investigation we do, is duplex scan, which will show increased flow, and that will be positive. But the investigation of choice is angiography, where corkscrew collaterals are seen. Something like these in angiography. So they're asking the next appropriate, so it will be duplex scan. Second, which of the following is the most common symptoms of the aortoiliac occlusive disease? See, aortoiliac, right? The first division. So it is gluteal claudication. Now, for further detail, you can look at just this table. See, if the block is at aortoiliac, not only the thigh and the calf claudication will be present, gluteal claudication or the buttock claudications will be present. And if associated impotence is there, it is known as Leydig syndrome. Now, this question has been asked in the NEET. Second, if common femoral artery is involved, gluteal claudications will not occur, only thigh and calf claudications will occur. And in the below arteries or vessels, only calf claudication will be there. Now, next topic is the most common cause of peripheral limb ischemia is atherosclerosis. Don't confuse it with the Buerger's, it is still atherosclerosis. Buerger's is only in patients who are heavy smokers. Next, a 45-year-old male having history of cigarette smoking and has undergone gangrene and amputation, and his biopsy revealed arterial thrombus with neutrophilic infiltration, and even veins and nerves are involved. So what is the diagnosis? See, here the diagnosis is Buerger's disease, which is also known as thromboangiitis obliterans. In Buerger's disease, there is inflammation and fibrosis of the small and the medium vessels, and this inflammation also extends to the veins and nerves, so these are also involved. So this was a question which was recently asked as well. Another question, all the following are true regarding the Raynaud's phenomena, except, see, Raynaud's is basically a just temporary spasm of the distal vessels. So it will involve the acral part of the fingers, that is right, distal part. Migratory thromboembolism is seen only, see, if you are not able to guess the answer or you do not know the answer, look at the extreme statements and mark those statements, because mostly it is observed that the extreme statements are answers. So further explanation, migratory thrombophlebitis is seen not only in the Raynaud's, it is seen in the Buerger's disease and in some of the tumors also. So this statement is wrong. Third, drugs acting by inhibiting the beta blockers in the blood vessels also play a role. This is a right statement because that will cause vasospasm and Raynaud's phenomena can occur, specifically beta 2 blockers are used. Fourth is emotional stress can precipitate Raynaud's. Yes, emotional stress and cold can precipitate Raynaud's phenomena. Next, which of the following is true about the Burgess disease? See, atherosclerotic, yes, it can be because all of the peripheral vascular disease also occur because of is due to atherosclerosis. Sorry, here the answer would be what the question will be what is false about Burgess. Okay. Then neural involvement is present. I just now told you yes. Ulnar artery and peroneal artery. I told you medial and small. So these are medial and small. And only arterial. This is a wrong statement. 127. After doing a graft repair of the thoracoabdominal aneurysm, the patient was not able to move both of his limbs. Most probable causes. See, the answer would be insufficiency of the arteria magna radicularis. Now I'll tell you some of the complications of the surgeries of aneurysm. So the most common is the leak, and there is a classification. Read it. Hemorrhage, chronic ischemia of the colon, bowel, and pancreas, paralysis of the lower limb. Now, iska reason hota hai because of the insufficiency of this artery. This is an artery. It's a branch of aorta. And paraplegia, now that is because of the spinal cord injury. Okay, the above question was also asked in the NEET exam by showing the diagram. 120. With respect to the peripheral vascular disease, all the following statements are true except. So they're asking the false statement. See, first is ankle brachial index less than 0.5 indicates critical lung ischemia. Correct, because the normal is 0.9 to 1.4. Less than 4 is imminent gangrene or critical. So this is the right statement. More than 1.4 is because of the medial sclerosis in diabetic patients. So here we do the toe brachial index as well. Second, ankle brachial index is different at rest as well as exercise. This is right because you know the index ke jo parameters are that will deviate. Third, L-arginine is useful for providing endothelial independent vascularization. Okay, doubtful question, we don't know. Smoking has a greater association with peripheral vascular disease and coronary vascular disease. I told you peripheral vascular disease most common cause is atherosclerosis, and in the arterial most common cause is smoking. See, in this question both these statements were wrong, but what was more closer to the answer was this statement, because smoking has association but not as much as coronary vascular disease. So this is wrong, and this statement was also wrong because L-arginine is a precursor of nitric oxide. So this would have been endothelium dependent vasorelation. So if again this question comes, then mark this answer. Smoking has a greater association. Now let's come to the next topic, acute mesenteric ischemia. 4 questions have been asked in 2 ways. First, most common cause of acute mesenteric ischemia is embolism. This is the most common cause. See, embolism in 50% of the population, 50% cause. Arrhythmias, valvular disease, myocardial infarctions, aneurysm, these all can cause emboli. Next, a 55-year-old male with ischemic heart disease present with sudden severe generalized abdominal pain, episodes of vomiting. On examination, pulse was high and rhythm was irregular and BP was low. The abdomen appeared soft, non-distended, and the bowel sounds were absent. Which of the following is the diagnosis? Now, like, this question could be excluded. Acute severe pancreatitis, peritonitis features will be present, guarding and rigidity. So this is absent, so this is not right. Ruptured aortic aneurysm, there is a triad. Severe abdominal pain, hypotension and pulsatile abdominal mass, and acute mesenteric ischemia. Now this has a history of ischemic heart disease because it occurs because of emboli. Abdomen hair is soft and the bowel sounds would be absent. So this would be the answer. And peptic ulcer perforation will again present as peritonitis. So the answer would be this. Now we have finished the arterial section. Let's start with the venous section. 14 questions have been there. So if you have to give importance, give more importance to the arterial section while revising. Now the first question is CEAP classification. It is a very hot topic because not only this question is asked in the INICET, recently they have started asking questions from NEET post 2020 because the guidelines have been changed related to it. 4 questions in 6 unique ways. See, I'll just explain you the CEP table, specifically the C class, that is a clinical class. See, C1 is telangiectasia or the reticular vein, that is a small veins. C2 is varicose vein. Now, new one added is C2R, which is recurrent. C3 is edema. Edema represent as inverted champagne bottle appearance. C4 there are skin and subcutaneous changes, like C4A is pigmentation or eczema. C4b is lipodermatosclerosis or atrophic Blanchard. Lipodermatosclerosis is woody leg and atrophic Blanchard is white skin. C4c is corona phlebitica. This has been recently added in 2020, where this type of pattern of veins are visible specifically near the ankle. C5 is venous ulcers and C6 is active. C6R is recently added, recurrent. So look at these tables very closely and you can pause the video and see. The C class is very, very important. Now this I have taken from the authentic sources. You can look how they have added the recurrent section. I'll provide you the link of this PDF on my Telegram channel as well as in the description box. So don't forget to like, share and subscribe the videos for further videos. Okay, now the next topic is about perforators. See, these are the topics which are quite frequently asked from the venous section, specifically the varicose vein. Now they have changed the type of questions. Earlier they used to ask about the tests. Nowadays they don't ask. So I'll quickly explain you the perforators. See, in the ankle we have the May-Custis perforators. Okay. Then in the lower leg we have the Cockett's, and below knee we have Boyett, above knee Dodds, and mid thigh Hunterian. See, if you have to remember, there is a mnemonic for this Cockett's, Boyett and Dodd. We have CBD. Another way to remember is, see, below knee Boyett and above knee Dodd. So anything above is very Dood, so Dodd. Now the truth about the varicose vein is 5% oily phenol is an appropriate sclerosant for venous sclerotherapy. See, sclerosing agents in varicose vein treatment is only used for telangiectasia or reticular vein treatment, not for proper varicose vein treatment. So remember this point because a question has been asked on what I told just now. The treatment of choice is endothermal ablation. Second, the best way of preventing the development of DVT in post-operative period is prophylactic heparin. Definitely you will not want the clot to occur, so prophylactically you will give heparin. Next. A 13-year-old girl presented with soft painful swelling, gradual in onset, and Doppler showed multiple venous channel. All the following are used as liquid embolizing agents. See, the DD is actually varicose vein and the embolizing agent they have asked, that is the sclerosing agents they have asked. So see, in the liquid we can use absolute alcohol, sodium tetradecyl sulfate, which is the preferred one, cyanoacrylate and ethiodol, and in the particle format we can use polyvinyl alcohol. So this was a little tricky question, so if in future if it comes, mark this answer. You can see at the table of the different embolizing agents. Next, the patient represents with varicose vein with sphenofemoral incompetence and normal perforator. Management options include all the following except, see, they're asking the larger one. So the larger valve is incompetent, the perforators are normal, and it is a varicose vein. So I just now told you sclerotherapy is only used for telangiectasia and reticular vein, not for the varicose vein. So this is answered to very easy questions. And the investigation of choice is endovascular stripping. Also we can do is flush ligation with stripping. Another point, sclerotherapy is for dealing minor varicosities less than 3 and for recurrence cases. Next, a very important topic on pulmonary thromboembolism. 22-year-old boy, casualty, history of breathlessness following the massage. He had a history of hairline ankle fracture and had a below knee cast which was removed recently. The most probable diagnosis is, see, this was a bit confusing because the DDs are very similar to it, but since he had a history of fracture and massage, so the emboli might have shifted up to the pulmonary vessels and might have caused pulmonary thromboembolism. So these type of questions are also asked in the medicine section, and this is easy one. Don't get confused with other like septicemia or pneumonitis. 14. A man presented with history of stab injury. On examination there was hematoma. Radial and ulnar pulses were not felt. A 3.5 centimeter longitudinal tear is noted in the brachial artery. Which among the following is the best treatment option? See, whenever we have to put a graft, since the tear is big, so we have to put a graft. So graft preferred is always a great saphenous vein. Why? Because I'll tell you. The most desirable is great saphenous Because their elastic properties are comparable to that of an artery, and it enables pulsatile flow as well. Diameter is similar to that of extremity artery, and it is not thrombogenic and has long-term patency. So these are the three reasons. Other graft material that can be used is cephalic vein, less saphenous vein, and prosthetic. And if I have to rule out, see, cephalic vein is not the choice because it is less muscular. Prosthetic grafts are preferred only when there is a trauma to the native saphenous, and if we do it, we use a PTFE because it is a soft graft. And saphenous vein patch is only used during the closure of arteriotomy site during the carotid and arteriectomy surgeries. Now with this, we have finished another 55 questions of the series, and for the PDF, subscribe to the Telegram link and look in the description box. And yes, don't forget to like, share and subscribe because that will keep me motivated. And since the exam is approaching, work hard but also eat well and exercise more. That will help you increase your memory. So till then, stay tuned and see the next videos for more such questions. Take care. Bye.